Okay. Anyway, that's us done with the container. That's quite a confusing class, and if there's anything that isn't clear in that, just feel free to ask me about it. I'll clear anything up. So the one last thing we need to, the one big thing that we need to do, currently at around 40 minutes for this video, but we'll keep going anyway. Determined to finish this in this video. We want to do the tile entity, and it wants to extend a class called tile entity, and we're going to have to import this. Okay. Right, so there's quite a lot of code here, but most of it's just boilerplate code. So for this we want an item stack array, and this is the inventory contents of the tile entity here, and this is what's going to hold all the stacks. We need to use a constructor for this tile entity custom chest. Doesn't take any parameters, and all we want to do is set the inv up, so inv equals new item stack, and we want to give it the number of stacks that are in your chest. So it's 54 because I've got, if you look at my image, I've got 6 rows of 9, 54, so you just give it that number there. It'll be different depending on what size of chest you're making. A couple of small methods here. One called the get size inventory, so we can override this. I'm going to return 64 because that's the size of the stacks inside this inventory. And we want to do one called, it takes an item stack, gives you an item stack back, and it's called get stack and slot. You can remember using this in the last thing. You take the integer of the slot, and then all you need to do is return your array at position slot. It's just some boilerplate stuff to help the thing come along. So we've got a couple of things, and yet again I'm taking this almost certainly from the tile entity in the actual chest class. There is quite a lot of stuff there, and yeah, it's this method puts a stack into a slot. So set inventory slot contents, and this takes the slot to put the stuff in, and the item stack to put into the slot. So this takes the stack. Ooh, that's bad bit of brackets there. Okay, this takes the stack that you give it and puts it in the slot. So inv slot equals stack, and we put it in first, and then we need to make sure that the size of the stack is not bigger than the limit that we want. Now, you would think that you would just get size inventory from this, but actually I have made a mistake there. That's not the stack limit, that's the inventory size, so we want inv.length. Ignore my first thing I said about that. I was thinking we were talking about the limit, and we weren't. That's actually the size of it, so it's just the length of that. You could put 54 in there, but why not use inv.length, because that will give you the same thing. So we need to make sure that this stack is, the size of this stack that we're going to put in is not bigger than the maximum allowed stack size. So it's easiest to kind of make sure it's not null first before you do anything like this, because if you don't make sure it's null and you start doing any of this stuff to it, then it will error and crash very badly. And there's a thing called get inventory stack limit, which will return 64 for most things. If it is that the right thing? Oh, I'm gonna override this, aren't I? Yes, I'm gonna override this. So I haven't created this method yet. That's why it's erroring. So there's so much stuff in this that you forget what you're going to create and what's created for you. If it's the size of the stack, then what you want to do is you want to set the stack size to the maximum allowed stack size, because it's better to just deal with the error and keep the game running than, freak out about it. Next method. I apologise if this is going a bit too fast, but at least if you don't understand it, you can go back to it, and if still not, I'm here to answer questions at any time. Just post it in the comments. Decrease stack size. So this is when you take stuff out of it. So you give it the slot, and you give it the amount of stuff that you want to take from the slot. So if you right click, it takes half of it, and it will give that number to this method, and it needs to be called the right thing. So you want to get the item stack from the slot here. And we can get stack and slot, so we can use our method we just did here. Get stack and slot and give it the slot number. And then we've got a stack here. Handy to make sure it's null as usual, because we're going to deal with a stack in a minute, and you don't want to deal with a stack if you don't know that it's not null. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure that the stack.stack size is less than or equal to the amount. So if you try and take 64 out, as long as the stack size is 64 or less, then it will be okay. If you try to take, say you tried to take 50 out and the stack was only 30, then that's not what you want. So if the amount that you're trying to take, if the stack size of the stack in the chest is greater, less than or equal to the amount that you try and take out, then you want to just get rid of all the stuff in the inventory and give them that. But then you want to set inventory slot contents of the slot and set it to null, because there's nothing in it anymore. So if you try and take out too much, then you just end up with 0. Okay. Now we need to do the other thing, and I'm just going to make sure, because I've got some notes written down, and I'm just making sure where I've put that. Yep, that's right. I thought my notes were wrong there. So if the amount is greater than the stack size, then you want to split the stack, and you can do that with stack.splitStack, and you give it the amount to thingy back. So that means that if the amount that you take out is less than the amount that's in the stack size, then you want to split it on the amount. So you leave the amount, you take the amount out and leave the rest in the stack. If after you've done that, for some odd reason, the stack size has become 0, then you want to put null into it, to just, oh, whoa, that's misclick of button and that happens. Okay, so if that happens for some odd reason, then you want to set your inventory slot contents to null. Whoa, slot null, because you don't want anything kind of garbage to be in there. X out of all these, so go past 3 of the braces, and then you want to return your stack back. Just that's what it does, and that's what it asks you for. Okay. Another method that I've kind of taken from the vanilla Minecraft thing is a method that returns an item stack. It's get stack and slot on closing. It takes the slot number, and we want to do the same as before. We want to get the item stack from the slot number, get stack and slot, make sure it's not null, and if it's not null, we want to set the inventory slot contents to null. I guess because you don't want the slot to be full when the chest is closed and you're not supposed to see the slots anymore, and that's I'm guessing that's what the NBT tag compounds do, which we'll get to in a wee minute. After that, you want to return the stack just to keep the method happy. Okay, let's move on. Next one is a method that returns an int, and we want to get inventory stack limit. Now these methods might seem all random, but if you go up to the top and you extend tile entity, and then you end up having an error here. There's an error there, so that won't show up there. But if you weren't to have it, you would see an error saying implement all these unimplemented methods that you need to implement, and all this stuff will come up and just give you the blank headings to fill in. I'm just going to go through them so I can talk about them at the same time. Now this method, we're just going to return 64 because that's the size of your inventory that we want. Easy stuff. This is our is usable by player thing that we tried to set up in our last class. Well, we used in our last class, sorry. Is usable by player. And you want to give it the player. And if we save that error in the other class should go away, should it? Ah, that's not worked yet, is it? It's still not been nice. Yeah. Let's hope that goes away. Okay, so this is a ripped off code from the actual Minecraft because it's the exact same thing that tests if you are allowed to use a chest. So get block tile entity X, Y, Z. Not X, Y, and Z because that's not the names of them. There's things called X chord, Y chord, and Z chord, which are global things that come with the tile entity. Okay, equals this, which is a tile entity, and player dot get distance square. And then we're going to add 0.05 onto, sorry, 0.5 onto each of the coordinates. Z chord plus 0.5. And we need to test if that's less than 64. So I guess if that just means if you're close enough to the thing, you'll be able to click on it. So that's probably the kind of reach limit. Two methods here that you need, but don't do anything at all, is open chest and close chest. You don't need yet because we're not making a chest that opens a lid. If you needed to do that, you'd put all the stuff to animate the lid in here. I'm not doing that because that would take hours longer to explain. Just a few more left. Hopefully we'll be done by the hour mark, which is quite a long way for a video, but I'll just deal with the upload, and if you want to watch it in two parts, then fair enough. So we're going to do our NBT things, and NBT tags are the way of storing information to get back later. So it's you kind of store information about the world. So we're going to do the one that we'd read from the NBT. Read it from NBT, and this takes an NBT tag compound, which is a list of tags. So it's basically like a key value pair. Well, not really key value. You've got a key and it gives you a value, but we're going to have one that's inventory, and it'll just have all the inventory items in it. And I'm going to call that tag compound. And I'll have to import tag compound. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to call the super method and just put tag compound in there. We need that just so that anything above can access that, so anything for the generic tile entity class can do stuff with that. Right, so we need an NBT tag list. NBT tag list, yep, and we're going to call it tag list. And we're going to get the tag list from the tag compound, so this is the items basically. And it's called get tag list. And this is important here, this string. So this is the string that is going to represent this tag, and I'm going to call it inventory because that's really what it is. You need to remember what you've put there because you're going to need to do it in your next method. You're going to make sure that you write to it with that name. So I'm going to call it inventory. And this says I want to get the tag list that's called inventory from this NBT storage. Now we're going to need to loop round this tag list, and I equals 0. I is less than its tag list, and then there's a thing called get tag count. Is it just tag count? Yeah, tag count. That tells you how many tags are in it. And then you want to get the tag from it. Now the tag, it might seem kind of weird, but a tag is also a tag compound. And the tag compound is made up of tag lists that are tag compounds. Yeah, it's weird, but bear with me here. and we're going to call it tag. I need to cast it to NBT tag compound because I guess it's just objects that are stored in here. Tag list, and there's a method called tag at, and it gets the number. You give it a number, it gives you the tag at that number, and we're going to give it I because that's what we're looping around. Okay, now we need to give the slot of this, so it's going to be a byte because that's the smallest kind of thing you can get, and we don't really need a byte of information here. I'm going to call it slot, and tag.get byte. I'm going to call it slot. Now this is me preemptively saying that I'm going to call the slot, just because I'm doing the read method first, and we'll see why I've called it slot in a minute. I need to make sure that the slot is greater than or equal to 0. Make sure it's not a kind of nasty error slot, and that the slot is less than int.length. So int.length is the thing we set up. So as long as the slot is greater than 0 and the slot is less than the inventory.length, so if it's in your inventory, just make sure it's actually a slot that belongs to this, because otherwise it will be null. You want to put into inv slot. Whoa, that's too many brackets. And then you want to use a method from item stack. It's just item stack, the kind of object name, and it's load item stack from NBT. And then you give it the tag compound, but not this tag compound because that's the outer one. You want to give it the tag. So that line there puts inside this slot the item from this tag. So it's the tag that's inside here, and the slot is the number of the slot that this should go into. Okay, and that's us for the read from NBT method. So that will take it will take the NBT tag compound that's stored, and it will generate your inventory from that. Now what we need to do is we need to say, well, hey, I need to write to this, so it's called write to NBT, and it takes the same thing as last time. NBT tag compound, and I'm just going to call it the exact same thing, tag compound. Right, so in here, as you could have guessed maybe, you need to write to the tag compound just to make sure that there's nothing above it that needs to be done. We need to make a tag list now, because this is us creating the tag list to put in. I'm going to call it items because it's the items that are going into it. So this tag list is going to be the items that we're going to take from the inventory and store so that we can get it when you close the game. Because if you close the game without this NBT stuff, your items will be lost because when it doesn't store it in the chest when you close the game. So this is going to be a new NBT tag list. So we're just going to create a new one of those. And then we need to loop round, but we don't loop round the item list, we loop round the inventory. So int I equals 0, I is less than inv.length, and we want to increment I each time. Okay, so you want to get the item stack from the inventory. Let's call it stack equals inv I. So this takes the array and gets the ith element of that, which is an item stack. You need to make sure that the stack's not null before you start dealing with that, because if it is null, then there's nothing in it and you don't want to do anything with that, because trust me, that's not a good idea to be doing. And then you need to create a tag compound, which is your tag, which is the thing we got from the tag list, tag at I. So we need to create this now, and it's a new tag compound, NBT tag compound. So now we've got a tag, so now we need to set something up. What's wrong with this? Ah, I've not put new. Excellent. Okay. Wow. Right. Tag dot, and then you want to set the byte. So we got the byte from in the read method. In this write method, we're setting the byte, so we're writing to this. And you'll see we're going to call it slot, and that's the thing that you get up here. So this is, we're getting the byte called slot. This is where we're writing to. So if you call this something different, that won't work. You're kind of matching up these names. And in here, you want to put I. Now, I's not a byte, so we're going to have to cast it to byte. And I guess it comes from the vanilla Minecraft code. I think they're just trying to keep the memory down, I guess. Storing stuff in bytes is easier. Okay, so now we've got that. So we need to get the stack and we need to write to the NBT. And we want to write it to tag because that's the thing we've just created. So what we do is now we've added a byte to the slot that's the number of the slot, so that we can get that back later on. So we're saying, oh yeah, this stack was in this item slot. So you want to write to the NBT. And now we've done that, we need to go back to our items and we need to append our tag to it. So we need to add our tag to the item list. Come out of this loop, and then we need to go to our tag compound, and we need to set the tag called inventory, which is the thing we got, if you know, right at the top of the read method. So we're saying that this is the inventory that we're getting. We're going to set our inventory now, and we're going to call this items because we need to put that in. So now we're saying that the items that we've just picked up from the chest are going to be stored in this NBT tag called inventory, and each of this has the slot and everything in it. And then in your read method you go and get the inventory and then you unpack it. So you unpack it here, you pack it up there. Quite simple. Okay. I think that's almost us now. There's three kind of strange methods that I'm not really sure what they do, but I've just taken them and kind of copied them for my use. So get inv name. It's just a method that returns a string, and it's like a name for your inventory. So I've just called mine tutorial mod dot tile entity custom chest, and I guess that maybe is a kind of localized name for it or something. There's also a boolean method that says is inv name localized, and for some reason returning true is what to do here. Yet again, I have no idea about this one. And there's a public boolean method. This one I actually know what this does. Is item val for slot, and you give it the int and an item stack. So it's the slot. Why am I calling that I? Call it slot. Item stack. So this, if you wanted to say though, well, you're only allowed to put. Oh well, there we go. If you wanted to say, oh, you're only allowed this kind of items in your slot, then you could say, well, test for the item stack ID and say if it's this, then you're allowed to put it in, return true, if not, return false. But I'm just going to say every item is allowed into each slot for the tile entity, and that's a tile entity class. What is wrong with this? Why is this error? I've still no idea. Nothing needs to be saved. So that's the only thing that's wrong. Right, I'm going to see if I've done something stupid here. You know, I'm gonna see if I'm just gonna call this tile entity, and instead of this.t, I don't know why that would change it because I'm not doing anything to it, but I'm used to something going crazy like that. And then just call this tile entity. Nah, it doesn't do anything. Okay, yet again, I'm going to be back once I work out what the hell's wrong with this. Okay, I've worked it out. It was nothing to do with this class. As you would normally expect with something like this. Actually, what I've forgotten to do here is you need to implement iInventory here, because you need to implement iInventory because you need to tell it this tile entity references an inventory and not just any kind of tile entity. And once we put that in, that should get rid of the other error as well. There we are. Yeah, that's all. There's still something wrong with that. Where's that error now? Ah, see, I've changed this name now, so just make sure if you're following along, like kind of word for word for that, to change that as well. And there's something wrong in this now. Is usable by if I spelt the name wrong. Usable has an E on it, E in it there, and that's us done our tile entity, our container custom chest, I've spelled it wrong twice. Okay, no errors anymore. Okay, here we go. Right, all the errors are done. We've done our block with our drop items thing. We've done our container with all our slots, and eventually we've done our tile entity. That's taken, if I'm right, over an hour. That's ridiculous time. So the one thing we've got to do now is we just need to finish it off. So I need to create a block here. So public static final block. What would we call it? Custom chest equals new block custom chest. What? I haven't used 600, have I? 700, just in case I have used it somewhere. Okay. Block custom chest, done that. In here, let's just do it down the bottom. You should remember this from the second tutorial. Register block. Want to give it the object name, so that was custom chest. And I'm going to keep it the same as my unlocalized name, whether I call it block custom chest. I've no idea if that actually makes a difference, but I'm just going to do that. We're going to give it a name. Custom chest. And we're going to call it, let's say, custom chest, like that. Not game registry, what am I doing? Language registry. Two more things we need to do. We need to register tile entity and register GUI handler. Tile entity goes in game registry. And we want to register tile entity. This takes the class name. So we want to go tile entity custom chest. And it takes the actual class, so we want dot class. And this ID here is a name for it, so I'm just going to call it tile entity custom chest, I guess, because that's what it is. And then to register the GUI handler, it's called network registry. Have I done that before? No, it doesn't look like registry. This is kind of like the add names for achievements where you need to put instance here. And you want to register the GUI handler. Is that right? If I need to import this or anything, I do. Register GUI handler, there we are. And it takes the mod, which is this, and the handler. And we want our class that implemented, that's the wrong one. Where are we? Custom chest handler. The one that implemented iGUI handler. Just remember your name that you said that, so it's custom chest handler. But we want a new custom chest handler. Is that right? That doesn't take any arguments, does it? New custom chest handler. No. Okay. So we've registered block. Okay, so I'm going to test this now. I cut out the bit before it because I'd realised that I'd made a couple of, well, I'd left one thing out that I said I was going to do in this video that I didn't, and then I made a mistake. So in the block chest, the class, I put test here for some reason. I don't know why I put test here. It's actually meant to be your mod ID, as you know from like the actual kind of block tutorial. So that stopped the texture of my chest turning up. So that was what happened there. Also, I couldn't open the GUI when I tested it, and it's because this method in here. Remember this little method that we created in the first video? That said return null because I didn't have the class, and I completely forgot about it. So you need to return new, and then whatever your tile entity is called. So a new tile entity custom chest is there. So I've loaded up Minecraft again, and I've went onto my chest test world, and I've moved to a place where it's not so hilly and stuff, so that I can test this. So I'm gonna get myself one of my custom chest. Now the texture looks stupid because it's on all sides, but my next tutorial, just what I'll talk about this while I'm putting on creative. My next tutorial, I'm going to show you at least multi-texture sides, so you can have, say, like you wanted the texture of the box on only the 4 sides and not the top and the bottom. You can have that. So I'm going to do that in the next one. Anyway, so I'm going to put it on survival. There we are. Let's grab some dirt to put in this chest so that we can see it working. Okay, so I've got 4 dirt. So you want to click, shows your inventory. So there's our chest inventory stuff. You can shift click to add and take away and stuff, and you can put them in different places. Okay, well let's log out of the game and make sure our tile entity, our NBT tags are working. So that should be in the same places as it was before, and I hope it is, because otherwise, yeah, it's in the same place. Okay, so we've got 4 dirt. So why don't I press the last thing and break the chest? It will break right away because I've not put any harvest level. So there we go, 4 dirt and our chest back again. So that's us. This has been a really long video, and if you've managed to follow it along in one go, good stuff. Well on your way to making a proper mod. So I hope this has been helpful, if not very, very long and full of information. If there's anything that's not clear, as always, just ask me and I will try and get to the bottom of it. Yeah, so now we know how to make a custom chest. As I said, next time I'm going to do multi-textured blocks. I'm going to change this texture so that it looks more like a kind of box that you could open, and there will be another few things in there to kind of beef it out a bit. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.